Hey, morning. Have you ever wondered why e-commerce is important to the telecom industry? Stick around to learn more about how you can benefit from the digital economy in the Caribbean. We'll be right back after this.
People think that this is the way things are working. So employees, team members, managers, leaders, but in actuality, there's a massive gap between what you think you're delivering and the experience that your customers are actually having on the front line.
Launching an online business needs a little bit of a mindset change. It's not just purchasing the website or the system and then sales come through automatically. There needs to be a little bit of a groundwork.
I mean, we are talking about going after the customer. This seems so obvious, but it's not, because when you are talking in a digital world, this customer now is much more empowered. It's much more criterious. It's much more looking for real relevancy on the way that he's connecting with any engagement, any company, any product, or any offer.
Good morning and welcome to First Atlantic Commerce. Here on the FAC Live Show, we cover all things e-commerce in the Caribbean. Our guests join us from all over the world and generously share their expertise, knowledge, and insight into the digital world and how we operate within it. If you're joining us from LinkedIn, smash that like button and follow our page to continue seeing content that would help you grow your online business because it is so important now. We will get into that in a bit. Today, we have the great privilege to talk to Stephen Price. He's the Vice President and General Manager of Flow Jamaica. He holds a bachelor's degree in business administration from the University of Technology and has completed the Cable Executive Management program at the Harvard Business School. He's committed to industry development and has brought the delivery of improved mobile and fixed network performance to support multiple sectors across Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica. I'm clearly in my zone there. Also, he has represented Jamaica on the West Indies rugby team, which is apparently a first. It was the Rugby 7. So, hi, Stephen. How is Jamaica?
Hey, pretty good. Hi, Paul. I'm very good. It's amazing here in Jamaica. We, as in Trinidad and Tobago, and we called a while ago, we're going through turbulent times because of we're still here in this dance, this bacchanal we call the pandemic. So we're all trying to navigate. Trying to make sure that we flourish under COVID and not just live in COVID. And I think that's our mantra as we move forward.
And for those who are in Jamaica right now, are you guys still under curfew?
We do have curfew still, but we've gotten the Prime Minister's seen it in his infinite wisdom to ease us up a little bit. So we now can be out as late as 9 p.m. But the curfew goes from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. in the morning. So it's one of those measures. Obviously, the Delta variant has been one that has been really rampant globally, and we had our third wave earlier this year. So it's been the measure that has been most effective in really curbing the spread of the virus. I think our vaccination levels aren't as high as we want them to be. And I think a lot of businesses are now looking at potential vaccine mandates across the board because we really need to get the vaccination levels up. And I mean, I commend Trinidad for where they've gotten to. But I mean, Jamaica needs to follow suit and get up there.
Yeah, we all have very different problems because we also, on our side of Trinidad and Tobago, we have just ended the state of emergency, which included a curfew. Yeah. So we're back to quote unquote normal with obviously our mask on. And we're all experiencing different problems because as always, I'm joined by Chris Burns. He's the CEO of First Atlantic Commerce, and here to help connect the dots with the technical side of e-commerce is Chris, who is currently in Bermuda fighting a storm.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. Yeah, Bermuda is we're entering our winter period, so it's a full-on winter storm here today. 30+ mile an hour winds, sideways rain. Not too cold, but it's a little bit of a shock to the system when you just immediately switch from summer. But everything else is good here. We seem to have the vaccination rates are pretty high. We're getting up to 70% now, where everything seems to be pretty much open for business. We've got some good technology in place in terms of something called SafeKey to help us, monitor who's vaccinated or tested negative within the last 3 days, so we can go safely inside and shop and eat and everything of that nature. So, we're hoping that it continues that way. It'll be interesting to see when we get, properly into winter and sort of cold and flu season, whether that has an effect on it. But the hospitals are in good shape here at the moment. So fingers crossed, we're coming through the worst of it.
That's great. Yeah, that sounds excellent. And to hear that technology was a part of that, no surprise, guys. Spoiler alert: technology is part of what it means to be human in this world. And I remember I actually was watching an interview that was discussing how the internet itself has become part of utility. It's water, electricity, and internet. And for some of us, looking in the mirror here, the internet goes just a little bit above water sometimes, depending on the time of the day. And with that said, it's this conversation around a digital economy, right? Because we are living in a world where we are connected to our phones. And I feel like we have the best guest to start the conversation around mobile usage. So without giving away trade secrets, Stephen, is it possible for you to give us sort of a percentage of the individuals who have phones in Jamaica?
I think we are oversubscribed. Let's say that we're above 100%. So that means there are some people in the market who have 2 devices as well, right? So I mean, we're over 3 million subscribers across the board in terms of the market space itself. I think also what's happening in Jamaica as well, we are now also pretty much getting more and more advanced in the space of IoT, significant usage of point of sale, additional SIMs for like meter reading, those kind of things. So there are more and more persons and more devices actually connected to this kind of Internet of Things in the country. So it's not just mobile phones anymore, but safely you can say that every single Jamaican, even those who are still in the crib, potentially has a mobile phone based on the subscription levels.
That's interesting because it's applicable to Trinidad, and to be honest, I'm sure it's across the Caribbean. With a report I read with the Trinidad and Tobago Association, Telecommunication Association, which basically said we have more phones than humans in Trinidad and Tobago right now. And, it has a lot, obviously, to do with choice and connecting the dots when it comes to, paying a bill, like I'm going to call this person on this particular network, and it's going to cost me less to do that. So we all make decisions. However, I find that when we are in business context, there's this conversation around mobile usage from the perspective of, everybody needs to go back to the old days and you have to, stop spending so much time on the phone. And then I find this influences how we make business decisions. Do you see the same thing in your space?
I see the same thing in our space, but I think what we have to understand now is like the mobile phone is now an extension of the human being in the sense that it's our connection to the world. It's quite easy. It's quite mobile. It goes to you where you want to, So I think for us, we are fortunate because on our network, I'd say maybe 80+% of our mobile phone population is actually smartphone based and actually using data. So, I mean, it has been increasing, and the pandemic itself has really been the major catalyst in that, in terms of accelerating that kind of digital transformation from that perspective. So a lot more things are happening, and it presents such an awesome opportunity for so many businesses out there because more and more persons are being connected to the space. I mean, imagine when the metaverse gets here, right? You're going to have some transformative things that happens. But I mean, it's the real catalyst for this whole digital economy that we're trying to create. I mean, the Prime Minister himself signaled that's what he wants for Jamaica, a digital economy within the next 10 years. And I think the mobility is going to be a major part of that, and how we actually grow the networks across the Caribbean will be part of the creation of that superhighway that allows for this acceleration and that growth to continue to take place. I think in Jamaica, we are fortunate. I mean, because of how competitive it is, especially between the two players right now, and there will be a third next year. It really presents some of the best rates possible for accessing the internet and accessing data and across the rest of the region. So it's really helping. It's accelerating it. Kids are using it for learning. There are more and more students using mobile tablets with mobile SIMs as well to get data to access their lessons and those things. So with this training of the next generation as well, it's also accelerating the growth in that space.
That metaverse conversation is so trending. It's topical at this point, especially with Barbados. Kudos to the PR company behind Barbados right now, because I know they announced, having the metaverse embassy on board. And with, that says that this is a conversation that's happening in the Caribbean. And if you don't know what metaverse is, please use google.com. It is your friend. Now, we mentioned earlier about mobiles, and I know we had this in previous live sessions, Chris, where we talk about, mobile usage and how a lot of folks tend to kind of go backwards in terms of how they approach e-commerce, meaning they don't have the right sort of chronological order to how to approach e-commerce. And one of the things I see, even as a user, consumer, is the lack of responsiveness to your website. So for those who don't know what that means, basically is, how is my engagement as a consumer on your website going to reflect your sales when it comes to e-commerce and being mobile ready for your website?
Yeah, thank you. And this is the main thing that we need to get over first is that there's no point complaining about mobile phones anymore, or people that use mobile phones, or it's changing us for the worse. I would argue the opposite of that, actually. They're here to stay, and everybody is running their lives on them. So it's their email, it's a phone, it's a camera, it's their social networks, it's their notepad, it's their scanner. It's all these things combined, and that is really what people want. These solutions have been driven by individual desire and need to make our lives easier and also more connected. So, the telecoms companies and Flow played a really important part. And, we've seen this over the last, 2 decades that FAC has been in business in the Caribbean, is as the networks and the telecoms providers have put in place better, faster, more reliable networks, e-commerce has continued to grow and more recently explode as people get more comfortable with the technology. So, but you have to use that technology properly. So directly to your point about the question, it's, if you have a Facebook page and you have turned on the sort of the auto response piece on the messaging, with the, can I help you? What question do you have? You have to make sure you're monitoring that. So, I had just had an experience with that recently. I was looking to get something done, couldn't get them on the phone, went to their Facebook page, sent a bunch of questions in the messenger bit that looked like somebody should be responding quickly. I think it was 4 or 5 days later, I got a message, oh, sorry, we don't actually monitor this very often. How can I help? And it's just a complete failure of the use of technology. And if you're new to e-commerce and you're trying to attract business to your online store, you have a very short window to be able to convert that potential customer into a paying customer and potentially a repeat paying customer. And that all is really about the customer service and using the technology properly to ensure that you're going to give that individual what they want, when they want it, and how they want it. Because there's lots of other options that are online now. And if you have that that initial bad experience with that company, it's very unlikely that you're going to go back there. And the technology is there to make it easier for you, but you have to use it properly.
That's such an important note. It's going to happen with or without you. So as a small business owner, why even try to have that conversation? You're not going to be someone's mother. Even so, even mothers can't control their children, right?
Yep.
So let's move beyond that conversation and talk about the opportunities for small businesses. So recently, Flo had a small business Fridays event, which, by the way, Stephen, you don't know this. I pitched, I sent my pitch and nobody responded, but whatever. I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter, Stephen. I'm not bitter. But it's fine. It's fine. So we're talking about Small Business Fridays, and it was a successful event that had over 3,000 attendees across multiple islands in the Caribbean. And with that, I'm sure there was a lot of feedback and information shared. But can you share some of the opportunities that you can foresee? Maybe give us some exclusive insight as to what businesses should be looking at.
I think for us, it was a great seminar. We had some awesome presenters. We had the likes of Alison Hines, which you wouldn't think of, but she's a businesswoman. We had the likes of Grace Spice Hamilton, who is one of our popular Jamaican artists. But she was speaking about her businesses and just what tips and everything in terms of how we move into the future. But I think for us in the e-commerce space, this is one of the things that we were really trying to push through that. Not only is it brick and mortar for or small businesses in Jamaica, and many of them were shuttered, especially because of the pandemic. In entering the e-commerce space, it really gives you an opportunity to totally transform your entire customer experience. And I think that's the key message that we wanted to bring to them. We had smart solutions that on display that allowed companies to really set up their own websites and everything within days, so that they have that sort of online presence. But just to have that online presence isn't enough, as Chris mentioned earlier. You have to know that, for instance, you're creating a kind of process. You're not replicating a brick and mortar store online. And that's the mistake that many businesses do make. What you're trying to do is reduce all the friction that normally would take place within a brick and mortar space and make it much easier and convenient for the customer at the front end. So from ordering, from viewing your products, all the way through the logistics supply chain or to delivery to the client. It's all that ideation that you're trying to remove the various levels of friction on that entire customer journey. So it's not just about entering the e-commerce space. It's about understanding what your customer experience is, the kind of customers you're particularly targeting, and understanding how do you fix and shorten that journey so that it's so easy for the consumer. So that, for instance, you've seen Amazon sort of one-click ordering. That the options are presented to the consumer. They're able to make their decisions in a second. And then also it's wired in their brains that this is a site I'm going to come back to once again in the future.
I'm actually intrigued to learn more about diversification, because some of the names you call there, like Alison Hines and Spice, who I believe is on a reality show now. Their business started with entertainment, but then there was this. It was almost as if there are multiple forms of income now, because Spice also sells clothing. So, is she incorporating e-commerce in all those aspects?
Yes, she is. She actually is, and she's using social media, particularly as part of her front end as well, in terms of how she actually sells to the consumer. So, even in her TikTok videos, in her Instagram videos, etc., where you see the product placement, those kind of things, and the links back into her shop. So she's using it very wisely. She's now an influencer, right? So she's using those assets to make sure that she sells and she points her consumers, her fans, towards the right products and services that she's pushing as well. So it has worked for her, and she is raking it in right now as we speak, and we're absolutely proud of her. I think she also shows that diversification is really, really necessary. you can't put all the eggs in one basket. One day it could be a star, the next day it could be an iron balloon. It can't burst, can't pop, So the reality is she's really making sure she uses this time that she has in the sun to make sure that she optimizes on creating those income streams that will allow her to continue to earn after she retires.
Yeah, and that reality show, I know Paula would know this. She's on the back end of this live show. She loves her reality shows, and it's Love and Hip Hop.
VH1 fan.
And I say reality loosely. All right, guys. So we're gonna get into a break, but when we come back, we're gonna have a discussion around. We're gonna look at supporting businesses and what Flow is actually doing to that. So we're gonna delve a little bit into that. So we'll be right back after this. Welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us today. First Atlantic Commerce live show covers all things e-commerce with guests joining us from different parts of the world, including the Caribbean, sharing their knowledge on all things digital. You're not going to find these conversations anywhere else. Trust me, I looked. When it comes to the Caribbean, it's hard to find information about us. So be sure to like and smash that follow button on Facebook so you don't miss a single live show. And be sure to comment if you have any questions, and we'll try our best to answer them today. As always, I'm joined by Chris Burns, the CEO of First Atlantic Commerce, here to help connect the dots with the technical side of e-commerce. Hey, Chris, trying to bear the brunt of a storm in Bermuda, which I don't know if you guys know this. This is a running joke between him and I in these live shows. I am still shell-shocked that Bermuda gets cold. Bermuda shorts are a lie. The branding needs to change.
We're revoking your Caribbean license.
Agreed, Stephen. Agreed.
It's the hard one. We still try and hold on to it, but some people do try and take it away from us. It's just nice to have a little bit of a break. We have 2 seasons instead of 1 or 4. That's our unique selling proposition.
Every time I watch a Hollywood show and I think Bermuda, it's either the triangle or the shorts. So I'm a little confused. My life feels like a lie, but we're going to move forward. And thank you to our guest, Stephen Price. He is the Vice President and General Manager of Flow Jamaica. And currently, you guys are under curfew, but trying to basically figure out a few things when it comes to the vaccine mandate. Is there technology involved with the sort of sharing information when it comes to the vaccine?
Oh, certainly. We've been a strong supporter of the Ministry of Health and Wellness here in Jamaica in terms of all the things that we've done to really help us manage through this pandemic. I mean, we've been helping just as a backbone of technology at all the airports, all the vaccination sites to make sure that, for instance, they're able to digitally do the registrations of all of the actual vaccinations on a daily basis from the various sites, by mobile, by fixed, and otherwise. I think right now we're now moving into the next phase of our kind of vaccination status. The government has announced they will be going to a digital record in terms of actually vaccination status, so that something can be really interrogated either internationally, locally, to understand if somebody has been actually vaccinated within the country. The issues in terms of the US, in terms of their requirements, Canada, the UK, etc. This will help us to really allow for easier travel for persons leaving the market, but also just in terms of how we interrogate each other's status. If we do move into a state where, for instance, it gets a little more uncomfortable for the unvaccinated within the country, whereby there are any mandates that are pushed out from the government or otherwise.
It's interesting to hear how different countries are dealing with this, and I think there's some parallels when it comes to e-commerce, because e-commerce means for a lot of businesses change and adapt into something that we wouldn't necessarily think that we would have to do immediately. And one of the things I've encountered coming back from a flight with the customs was the inability to understand the tablet. So one person was asking another person how to turn on the camera. It was quite interesting to experience as a millennial. Um, but from a business perspective, I think there are a lot of gaps within the Caribbean when it comes to that e-commerce space. So, Chris, I want to start with you in terms of like, what is one of the biggest gaps you're seeing when folks, or should say hurdles, when they are approaching e-commerce?
So, one of the misconceptions, I think, is that that this is too complicated for the individual or the sole trader or the micro merchant to do, and and the fact that if there isn't PayPal or Stripe in the Caribbean, that we can't do this. So I can't do this because some of these big North American players are not in my region. Therefore, it's an excuse for me not to be able to move forward. And we're here to say firmly and squarely that all the solutions at every level are available within the Caribbean. Flow is providing some very innovative products. All the banks are geared up to support e-commerce now. They all have their e-commerce acquiring licenses. We as a payment gateway are here in all pretty much every Caribbean country, connected to just about every single e-commerce acquiring bank. So we have a platform that is a payment platform that is by far the largest within the Caribbean, and there are multiple partners on the front end of our payment platform that can provide all levels of service. So we have partners like Figaro, for example, which can provide payment buttons, electronic invoices, for very sole traders, micro merchants that are very easy to send and receive credit card payments to your bank. We're the payment gateway for companies like WePay. We have multiple shopping carts on the front end, like Wix and Shopify and Magento and WooCommerce and OpenCart and PrestaShop. So all those, most of those major shopping carts that people want to use, we now have connectivity for that and can provide that in there. So, I think that is the message that we want to impart to everybody, is say, look, all these solutions are here. Yes, there's no PayPal. Yes, there's no Stripe, but everything else that you would need to get your either your micro business or your medium size or large size business up and running from an e-commerce perspective is here. And within FAC, you have the most experienced company within the region when it comes to payments and e-commerce, because we've been here for 20 years. We helped grow the e-commerce economy within the Caribbean. So if you don't know where to start, come and talk to us. We'll help you. We'll be able to point you in the right direction. We'll be able to show you which technology is connected to us, which individuals at a specific bank that you need to talk to. So I think we need to move away from the narrative in the Caribbean that we don't have the solutions that we need to be able to start or grow or expand our businesses internationally. That's past. That's the past. Maybe that was the case at one point, but everything that we need, the telecoms infrastructure, the banking, the payments companies, the connectivity to the front end, payment buttons or shopping carts or website creators, it's all in place within the Caribbean now. People just need to seize the moment.
True.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's definitely something that I think we need to just get over. Like we mentioned earlier, where we're discussing this idea of, oh, well, we're all on smartphones now and we need to go back to horse and carriage. So, and it's interesting because the irony is we're complaining on the same devices that we're saying everybody is on. But to shift the conversation across to small businesses and the support aspect of it, I believe it was Edward Snowden that said the internet is something that is part of utilities. It's water, electricity, internet. And with that, you have a great guest, Stephen Price, who's going to give us all the information possible he can legally share. When it comes to supporting small businesses in the Caribbean, yes, there's a conversation around broadband. You have starting prices at 45 US. I'm looking at it now on your Jamaican site, as well as some monthly options in Barbados at 210, which is pretty decent for an expense. I must say, as somebody who's a business owner, if that is the majority of my business expense, I really have no complaints. And when it comes to support, you mentioned having the event, the Small Business Fridays event. Is there anything else we should know about when it comes to a small business trying to navigate an e-commerce space? What support can they get from Flu?
I think the key thing there is we want to be your partner, right? I mean, and we want to walk you through that journey. So, I mean, even our salespersons right now, I mean, in terms of just how they impart knowledge and how they actually sell, it's more of being a consultant in terms of guiding the consumer or the business customer on that journey. And we're very keen on that. I mean, we know it's still in infamy, and the real thing is we want to make sure that they do it wisely, that they make the right decisions whenever they enter the space. I mean, one of the things that, and Chris knows as well, especially with the kind of growth that we've had in recent times in the digital space within the Caribbean, also growing equally is the threats, and the Caribbean hasn't necessarily been at the forefront of the cybersecurity kind of space in terms of making sure that they, one, educate the people as to how to engage with e-commerce and engage with phishing and all those kind of things that are threats out there. And then the other piece is just how they know just protect themselves as they enter the space. And I think that's one of the things that we pride ourselves on in terms of ensuring that we work with our small businesses to make sure they understand all of this. They understand the world of e-commerce. They understand them how to get online, how to actually create that page. And we can do it for them as well in terms of creating those pages for them and making sure that it has the most relevant information, targeted information, designed quite well with their designer or otherwise. We will help them through that space. I think it's easy to just throw up a site, but as Chris had said earlier, really we have to make sure that they also understand how they support. Now that you're online, you're not open 24/7, right? Anybody can approach your site at any point. You have to know how to manage your offices. You don't have to manage your back office in terms of how you support, how you ship, how your logistics, all of those things. And we try our best to help them, guide them to understand all of these and really understand the costs around it, because many of these businesses try to do this while they're doing the brick and mortar, but sort of try to mirror the brick and mortar, which is not necessarily the best formula. In a lot of instances, what I can tell persons, if you don't have to do brick and mortar, don't. Go straight to the consumer, because you remove all the layers of friction between that product and that consumer by really creating the kind of site and the kind of customer journey that leads them there.
So is there somewhere that the small business owner can go to if they want to find out a lot of these things? Because that sounds great in terms of support, but does that happen after you commit to your broadband package? How does that work?
No, it happens during the sales journey, but as well for any of our existing consumers who aren't taking up smart solutions, we do the website, we do everything for them in terms of the connectivity, everything. If you have let's say a cafe, right? And you want your cafe online, you want to have broadband, you want to have mobile services to run your business, to have your bearer, all those kind of things. We design it particularly for the individual business as to what their actually needs are, And I mean, it's so portable at the same time. It's component based as well, so we can put various pieces of the puzzle to fit the particular needs of the actual business client. We have our contact center, your small business contact center, 1-888 and 4 more 8s who they can dial as well. But you have our Flow Business website, which is right online, and you will get a contact within a very reasonable time to make sure that we follow up on that lead, to ensure that we walk you through that actual journey.
So is this something specific to Jamaica, or is this something across the
This
Caribbean?
is right across the region. BTC, I'm in the Bahamas, and then all the other Flow markets right across the Caribbean. We are all focused on small business. I mean, like I'd say, for instance, the market in Jamaica is somewhere around 60,000 business strong, thereabouts. I think from our perspective, we control, I shouldn't say control, but we have about 40% of that market. But we are looking to deepen that penetration. And I think e-commerce and smart solutions in terms of mind services, whereby you take away that worry entirely from the business, is the way to go. And I think that's where we're pushing the envelope right now.
Okay. That's something that I'm definitely going to investigate for my personal usage as well. And we want to, really expand on what e-commerce is, because a lot of people think that e-commerce is to put up the website and they will come. And you mentioned it earlier with all these different elements. I mean, marketing in itself, I'm in that space, and that requires a team. Freedom or cybersecurity is a whole different ballgame, which we covered on this live show. If you want to check that out, just check out our videos. But we want to delve into that right after the break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, depending on if you're watching this on a replay. Thank you so much for joining First Atlantic Commerce. The FSC Live Show covers all things e-commerce, with guests joining us from different parts of the world, sharing their knowledge on this digital world that we are all part of. You're not going to find these conversations anywhere else. Trust me, I looked. The Caribbean, we're unique. You and I know this. So make sure to like and follow us on LinkedIn so you don't miss a single live show. And be sure to comment if you have any questions, and we'll try our best to answer them. As always, I'm joined by Chris Burns, the CEO of First Atlantic Commerce, here to help connect the dots with the technical side of e-commerce. Hey, Chris, hailing from Bermuda.
Hi, good morning. Good morning.
And with us, thank you to our guest, Stephen Price. He is the Vice President and General Manager for Flow Jamaica. And it's interesting because we are in a time, no matter where you're in the world, that the idea of, an 8 to 4 has changed, it's evolved. We're not in that space as we were before. And what that means is, if you're like, for instance, in Jamaica and you're under curfew, if you have your office hours changed, how are you going to make money? Because obviously brick and mortar is something that you close the door and that's it. And I don't know if you have any case studies from Flow as it relates to that shift to e-commerce, Stephen, when it comes to businesses and what changes.
I think what has happened, particularly for us in Jamaica, we have actually been blessed. And it's we have to also thank the government as well, because they actually put their money where their mouth is in terms of how they helped small business, especially during the days when we were locked down. And I think one of the key pieces of the puzzle that they helped solve for some of the businesses was logistics, and creating that kind of platform where they had a program they called ENDS, which really was a fully online kind of bearer delivery kind of portal for many small businesses. And what has given rise to is more and more persons entering as small businesses as well in terms of the logistics space. I mean, we have that big giant Hugo that's here. We have 7 Crave. We have a number of these kind of delivery services now which are popping up. And I think that's the key piece that many of our small businesses were missing. Yes, they were trying to get online, but then they didn't have the kind of delivery kind of mechanism and logistics supply chain kind of worked out. And that's what a lot of businesses are now figuring out. either vertically integrating that within your business or outsourcing that, which is where most businesses in Jamaica have more than likely trended to. So, I mean, the first phase was a lot of the actual FMCG, fast food kind of businesses who pivoted online, started using a number of those businesses and those delivery logistics kind of companies. And that really helped to keep them open, especially in times of lockdown. I mean, we just came off of maybe about 6 or 7 weeks of Saturday and Sunday lockdowns, full lockdowns. And I mean, within those days, that's how we got things from the pharmacy. That's how we got things from the supermarket. That's how we got food delivered in terms of takeout. I know in Trinidad, you love your KFC down there. Same way in Jamaica, right? That was how we got our KFC, right? So I think that's what's been growing, and we're pretty much trying to make sure a lot more businesses look at it and really kind of formalize logistics. We still have infancy in terms of our logistics systems that support these kind of things are there, but we're looking to improve them and we're supporting. And I mean, even ourselves, we're looking to improve as a business, a technology company in terms of technicians, in terms of delivery, those kind of things. So those are some of the things that we're looking to that space as well.
Wow, that is fantastic. The logistics part is such a headache for a lot of small businesses. So the fact that public sector got involved, I mean,
it was impressive. I mean, ends you can probably read up on it online. I mean, it's a solid case study of the government coming into that space to solve a problem, and it wasn't really the government alone. It was a public-private partnership. The PSOJ, the private sector organization of Jamaica, as well as the government came together and knocked heads, and they got it up in no time. I mean, the reality is, yes, it had its hiccups, but the fact is it solved a problem that we had. And that's where a lot of focus has to go for business. Yes, it's okay to collect the payments up front, and FAC will be your partner for that. But you have to make sure you fulfill all other elements of the customer journey in terms of making sure that it gets to the consumer in an expected time that you've told them and agreed with the consumer.
wow, that's interesting because that also kind of gives us insight into previous live sessions we had with Vivian actually from Jamaican Cool Market, and she was talking about the marketplace, the expansion of the marketplace, and how you now have almost like a parent, if you may, like all you need to do is supply this product and they're going to do the rest. And I believe the same thing is happening in Trinidad and Tobago, where seeing those marketplaces pop up in Trinidad. Chris, you could confirm?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this year alone, we've seen about 30 different marketplaces come up in Trinidad. And, Jamaica's done a good job with that too. So, and we see that spread throughout the islands because it's a great business model for micro merchants. So, the companies, this might be a side business for somebody where they have a product or service that they want to sell, but, they have a full-time job somewhere else. And they might not have the capital or the initial investment into the company to, create their own website or the formation of the company or go through all the steps with the bank to create an e-commerce merchant account and do all the integrations. The great thing about the marketplace is that's all done for you. So it's already there, and they're already promoting their website. They're promoting the products and services on the marketplace, and they play as Steve rightly said a really vital role in making sure that whatever is bought is delivered when you promised it would be delivered, and that is a really great service. And some people look at it and say, well, okay, well then it's going to cost me X to sell through this particular marketplace, but I guarantee you that that cost is going to be very similar to if you had to do it yourself, if maybe not a little bit less, especially if you're just starting out and you've only got a couple of products that you want to sell. And then you also get all that attention from other people that are going to that site to be able to purchase some other products, and they may come across your product and add that to the basket as well. So there are great method to get your product and your company up and running initially, and without having to do a lot of the heavy lifting on the technical side or the banking side to get that going. But the other thing that we mentioned, online, so it's not only a great way to sell the product and serve your customers, but going back to the importance of making sure that your customer service is spot on as well, is that online is also a huge venue for people to be able to either say good things about your company or bad things, and people are very quick to complain in a sort of pseudo anonymous type environment that is the internet. So it gives you a lot of opportunity to sell and expand your business ultimately to the world, but you have to make sure you get your service right, otherwise potentially they will crucify you online if you don't.
Very true.
Yeah,
I
it's almost like a. Go ahead.
I think just to add to what Chris said, I mean, we know the Airbnb stories, we know the Uber stories in terms of how these businesses solve problems for consumers, and I think just following on from what Chris said, I mean, we also have to do the same thing in the space of small businesses. Who is helping to solve those problems for the small business? And this is where a lot of these marketplaces, these logistics, where there are other opportunities that are popping up, especially in this e-commerce space, which just make it overall easier, plug and play for many businesses to get online. So, I mean, you can use us at Flow, you can use all of the other facilities that Chris mentioned earlier, and you can use FAC as well as any other from an e-commerce kind of outfit in order to really get your payments going. But the fact is, there are other persons who are solving the problem for you. It's just really to educate the business sector that these are their avenues, that there are ways to get there, and come have a discussion with us.
Yeah, the actual Caribbean culture of having control over something, I think, is something that we should definitely acknowledge, because with Chris saying that there will be people who are unhappy. I have a friend, she does have an app, and someone complained that the portion size wasn't enough. They gave it like a 1 star. Is the food? It wasn't the food, a portion size, and they had to go and buy KFC. So it's new problems. And I think that's something that we have to address, because I was listening to a podcast around how the brain learns. And when it comes to unlearning certain types of behaviors, it's almost like you're trying to unlearn English, which is nearly impossible. So for anyone out there who is, watching this and thinking, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming. You're telling me not only do I have to do up a website, I have to learn what does cybersecurity even mean? Does it mean that somebody's going to be in a hoodie on a keyboard typing away trying to, get all my money? Like what type of advice would you give to that business owner trying to explore this for the first time?
Well, that was Chris Orby.
That's you, Steve.
No, I think the reality is be informed, get the information. There are many businesses out there willing to help. There are many parties willing to help in terms of just how to take those baby steps into this world. We try to remove as much trouble as possible from your hands in terms of how we guide you, in terms of how we protect your platforms, how we protect your payments, how we protect everything that comes in there. But part of that responsibility also lies with the business to make sure that they also protect themselves. And education is going to be the key there in terms of how we move forward.
I'm seeing on your Flow Business site where you have e-marketing pro solutions. There's the business email, pro email marketing website and online store. Why does Flow believe it's important to have these solutions as a package?
I think we have to communicate with your client base, and the reality is people want to get rid of that headache that they're not, nobody wants to always think about what's the next marketing campaign for this week, next week, etc., etc. We can work together, create a strategy and a plan in terms of, okay, fine, how many posts a week do you want to do on social media? How many posts a week do you want to do on LinkedIn, etc.? So that at least you have the burgeoning of a strategy and a formulation as to how you want to reach your consumer groups and hit them on a regular basis so that you're always top of mind, that you're in their face, that they know that your product is there, and it could be the first choice that they make when they need that product again. So we make sure we get those business emailers, depending on the client base that you're trying to reach, but we also help out from a social media perspective, in terms of putting you onto partners, because we don't always do the social media kind of stuff ourselves, but we make sure that, for instance, we put you onto partners that can help and guide you.
And Chris, I want you to add, why it's important to have that marketing aspect, because we've said this a few times, and I think we need to say it again, why it's not just about putting up your website and they'll come.
Yeah, so not everybody, sticking to the KFC theme, not everybody has, that instant brand name. I think I'm right in saying, so KFC in Trinidad set the world record for sales in one day. I think it's the day after Carnival a few years back.
Embarrassingly true, but carry on.
Yeah, and then there's a Wendy's in Bahamas that also has a world record for sales in one day. So, obviously food is very important within our region, and not everybody has a brand name like that they can leverage. Mm-hmm. So, when you start up your business, you can't just have this mindset that you've done all the upfront work and that everybody is just suddenly going to find your website and buy everything that you have. And you got to apply a similar mentality that you would if you were opening a brick and mortar store. So, if you just open the store and then that was it, and you didn't do any advertising or promotion, and you're just expecting people to walk by randomly past your store and then come in. It's the same thing with online. You have to invest the time and energy and the thought in terms of how do you actually promote that store? Who are you promoting to it? What parts of the world are you promoting it to? And use the technology, in terms of, SEO and Google and content creation and, social media, etc., or even print. Like if your customer base is still, buying a newspaper or magazines, physically, that's where you need to be seen and driving, your message to your potential customers. So, it's, we see it a lot, unfortunately, where, people have just built the website and then that's it. And wonder why the business might fail, or then have a narrative that e-commerce doesn't work, and it's just simply not the case. You have to be able to think past the creation of the product and the website through to, okay, this is my plan over the next 1 to 5 years in terms of creating interest and value and excitement in terms of what we're doing, and driving customers to your business online.
As Chris says, this is no field of dreams. It's not build it and they will come, right? You have to make sure you put in the work. You have to make people know about you. You have to continue to promote your business. You have to make sure that the products that you're selling, that you have them in stock, that your supply chain, your inventory is right, and what you're displaying you actually have. Because you don't want to disappoint a customer, neither do you want to miss a sale. So you have to make sure all these things are checked off, and you have your daily checklist. I'm going to check the customer experience emails that come in. I'm going to check the posts. I'm going to make sure that I deal with the negative ones first, deal with the positive ones. Let's make those negative posts into promoters. Let's make sure we delight those customers. Let's solve those challenges that customers may have had with us. And the other thing is, never do you stay static. The reality is you want to always continue to update your site, your content, your look and feel, to make sure you refine it. You have to understand things like where your customers are actually clicking. Are your customers actually, you losing your customers in that sales funnel? Are you getting them all the way down to actual checkout? So you have to also do that kind of analytics to make sure that you're optimizing your site best that your communications are hitting the right persons. And also, I mean, on top of it all, do your market research. It may be a simple survey monkey. Find out exactly what your customers are experiencing when they touch your website. And you can continue to chart your way forward in terms of improvement.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, those things are free. FYI.
Very free.
FREE. All right. So when it comes to what we've been speaking about, because I see the numbers, Amazon actually jumped up this year in the top 5. It was like borderline 6, 7, 8 in the Caribbean in terms of the top visited sites in the Caribbean. And they jumped obviously 1 or 2 this year because a lot of people were home. And then you have Jeff Bezos heading over to the sky in space, which I believe the Caribbean contributed in some way. And then you have the conversations around the cryptocurrency and the coins, and you have Barbados and the metaverse. So for a lot of people, they may think, you know what, all of these things are happening. You tell you if you're not into Bitcoin now, don't even bother because you're too late. As a small business owner, you might be thinking, what's the point? Why bother? I'm going to fail anyways. What would be your conversation around that? And I want you to think about it because we're going to go on a quick break. And when we come back, you'll answer the question. Okay, we're going to get right down to it because we're almost in closing time, but I want to find out from our guests today, because it's a lot of information. We're in a state now where we're so consumed by information. We feel that, you know what, what's the point of this e-commerce conversation? Maybe it's too late. And I want to find out from our guests what their response would be if a small business owner would be like, why bother? It's too late now.
I think from our perspective, there's this analogy that they say, you know, when was the best time to plant a tree? I mean, the automatic answer was 10 years ago. When is the next best time? The next best time is actually now, right? And it's there's never a good time to enter, but now is the time because of the fact that you see the world around you being transformed. You have to move, you have to change with the world and change with the environment around you and get involved, or else your business will be left behind. I mean, it's quite interesting. You look at businesses like Amazon who really solve the problem of removing all the friction for consumers in terms of bringing them back into the e-commerce space. But now is actually stepping back out into having gotten all that knowledge and understanding from removing the friction from consumers. Now they're stepping back out into the brick and mortar space. But it's all about getting more and more information about your customers, understanding the customers, understanding their needs. And right now, your customers are trending towards the digital space. Don't get left behind. Now is the best time to start. Now is the best time to enter. There are many partners out there who are willing to help. FAC is one, Flow is one. Come to us. We can help you and guide you down that path.
Chris, you want to close off there?
Yeah, certainly. So, you know, it's just a must-have now. You know, so it's not one of these things that I don't think is even a choice. You know, if you're a business of any size, you know, you have to have a digital footprint in the world now. Even if you're not selling your products and services there, you have to have a digital footprint. You know, whether you're a micro merchant or a medium-sized business or a large merchant, you have to be able to have that touch point with your customers and potential customers in an online type environment, whether that's a website or, you know, social media. You know, if you look at somebody like, you know, Cristiano Ronaldo, he is the most followed person on Instagram. You know, he's not really selling goods or services. He's promoting his brand. And, you know, he has reached the top, but, you know, he is still, you know, feeding and watering his brand and his social media and the impact that has on him as a player and all his products and his sponsors and everything like that. So, you know, the fact that, you know, if anybody is thinking they have missed the boat with e-commerce. It's the wrong way to look at it. It is how and when do I make this happen as soon as possible? Because if you don't, you're really, you're not going to be in the right place to grow your business at all, or even start your business. And it's fantastic that partners like Flow are there to, that are a trusted brand name within the region, are creating products that are going to help easily bring companies along into this space, because they absolutely have to have it. There's no choice now.
I like that, looking at problems differently. I think that's definitely a great way to end that. And I didn't know that Cristiano Ronaldo dethroned The Rock. This is news to me on Instagram. Wow.
Last time I checked, but I could, my data could be.
You're correct. You're correct. You're very correct.
Yeah.
Chris, you're more up to date and stuff than me. I am surprised.
Well, it's because I'm more up to date on football than you, probably.
Oh, fine. I'll take that.
I think Chris sounds like a pained Man U fan, and I think
yes, I am for my thing. Yeah.
Guys, let's not end that on a sour note. Let's move forward. We're gonna bring up emotions. Let's not do that. I saw that trending on Twitter all weekend.
It's painful. Very painful.
All right. And on that note, thank you so much to Chris and Stephen for joining us today as we discuss how small businesses can benefit from the digital economy in the Caribbean. Be sure to join us on December the 7th, same time, same place, for our next conversation as we learn to navigate our digital world. While our experiences may be island specific, there's always lessons to be learned. And trust me, I learned so much from our guest. As always, be sure to like and follow us on LinkedIn so you don't miss a single live show. And thank you for joining us today. See you soon. Bye.